Chapter 1, Ashford Bay. Part 9. False Bottoms. Rain came thin and mean at supper, enough to polish the cobbles and persuade the town to speak indoors. The lighthouse took to its night work, rolling a white blade through the mist until every wet surface confessed, then lied again. Mick's place held a handful of men arranged like commas. Lily tuned the piano with 2 fingers and a smile that had read worse rooms. She sang something low that knew about trains and late apologies. The rest smelled like rye and boiled beef and the damp wool of men who remembered their mothers in winter. Mick set a bowl and a cup where I'd decided to be. "Payment for a towel I didn't ruin," he said. "And a ledger I did." "You promised a list," I said. He nodded to the steam and made his voice private. "The ones who stopped buying oil and started buying rope, Morse ordered hemp by the coil 2 months running, cash, no church discount. Pike & Son stopped ordering red marine enamel last week and started asking about cargo net mend in, odd for a paint man. Harlan Coyle took delivery of a block and tackle set he can't spell. And Caldwell's warehouse billed the committee for lantern oil that never traveled farther than the invoice." "Which Caldwell?" "The one with the ring fits the pen," Mick said. "The other fits his fist. Choose your poison." He wiped a dry spot into the bar and left it to fend for itself. "Don't get righteous. Righteous men drown here first." Lily finished her song and came down the bar with the slow grace of a ship that knows its draft. "You look like you're about to interview the dark," she said. "I have an appointment with a drawer," I said. "Bring it flowers," she said. "Men talk when furniture charms them." She glanced at the door, at the weather, at the beam that knifed a thin triangle into the fog. "If you fall in," she added, "don't expect the piano to mourn. It's busy." "Pianos are like that," I said. "People too," she said, and went back to work. I put the soup in a place it could do me good and left the coffee to finish its argument with the night. The docks had the country to themselves. Boards spoke where my feet chose to be. Nets hung their exhausted theology and the tide contributed commentary in knocks. The harbor office had gone dark, but darkness in public buildings is a matter of habit, not faith. Wire glass boxed the little room in a web of diamonds. Eli had drawn the shade, a thumbprint in the corner told me it had been done in a hurry by a man who trusted routines more than he trusted luck. I tried the door because it was there. Locks exist to recommend windows. At the far side a casement opened 4 inches to remember the day and had failed to forget it. A knife between the wood and the stubborn part did what knives have always done for men who ask politely. The window sounded like a guilty man clearing his throat and then let me in. The room smelled of pencil shavings, salt, and the young ambition of glue. The west wall file snored against order. Second drawer, a faint crescent of a scratch where a key ring had been clumsy or a conscience had been heavy. I listened. The rain went about its arithmetic. The lighthouse announced its rounds by way of light rather than sound and taught the wire glass new tricks. I opened the drawer. Forms behaved themselves in stacks under clipboards. Receipts for lantern oil with dates that liked to huddle together. Beneath, a thin board with a finger notched into it disguised itself as the bottom. I checked the room again with the part of me that had learned to read maps made of noise. No footsteps. No voices. The tide's hand working the pilings like a reluctant clerk. The false bottom came up if you asked without force. Below it, a stub of red pencil, a dull crimper for thin wire, 2 lead seals already married to cut cord, and a blotter sheet pressed into service as a makeshift pad. The blotter wore the ghost of a page that wasn't there. The indented letters showed themselves like tracks in new snow. I angled the desk lamp toward its own reflection on the glass, fed it the last of a guilty bulb from the socket, and took a page from my notebook. A soft pencil brought the bruised writing up in gray relief. The numbers found their voices first, 17 crates, below, tallies in 4s and 1 orphan, weights, destinations that preferred initials to names, a note in a smaller hand, ***, copy to sacristy ***, and then a signature that had left itself behind in muscle memory even if the ink had wandered off. H, and the downward drag of a letter that might never have been finished. "Harbor master," I said to the room. "Harbor. Henry." The room declined to answer. The sea answered in its own language. A key turned in the door. I closed the drawer and stepped into the corner that didn't collect light. The wire glass showed a hat and a shoulder and more rain. The door opened 3 inches and Sheriff Harvey slid in sideways like a man avoiding an argument he'd arranged to win. "You pick bad rooms for good ideas," he said, not surprised. "I like the company," I said. He closed the door with the key he hadn't shown me and set his hat on the rack in the old mail slots where letters used to nap. "You found the bottom," he said. He didn't ask, he stated. "Find anything living under it?" "Ghosts of a page," I said. 17 crates. A copy to the sacristy. A sketched signature that starts with H. "Harbor," he said. "You're about to be helpful and unhelpful at the same time." He reached past me and pulled the false bottom himself, glanced once, replaced it. "You left it better than the last man who looked." "Eli." "Eli's neat," he said. "Men who visit his drawers are less so." He turned the lamp off and on. "You working for me tonight, Mr. Reed?" "I'm working for the truth," I said. "That's another department," he said. "But we share a wall." He opened the West file again, took something I hadn't seen, a carbon slip folded to the size of a priest's patience, and tucked it into his coat. "You didn't see me take this." "I didn't see you come in," I said. "Good," he said. "Now get out of my office." "I thought this belonged to the harbor," I said. "It belongs to whoever can keep it from burning," he said, and the beam came around and made his eyes briefly honest. "You know what happens when kindling gets stacked under public chairs, Mr. Reed?" "They hold meetings," I said. "They hold fires," he said, and opened the door to usher me into rain. We stepped onto the planks together. The town had shrunk to a handful of lamps and the white blink of the tower. On the far side of the wharf a motor coughed and then remembered a better idea. Harvey watched the dark as if it owed him back taxes. "Pike," I said. "You think he signed something he shouldn't have?" "I think he held a rope that didn't like how it was being used," Harvey said. "And the rope said so." "The widow brings paper to a place that measures fish," he said. "She'll either get justice or a cold welcome. Sometimes they're the same." He tilted his head. "You planning to sleep?" "I don't do that until I run out of questions." "You're in the wrong town for that," he said. "Go on. And don't stop at the church unless you brought a prayer." He left me under a lamp that made a small country of light and claimed no citizens. I watched his shadow go and listened to the dock work out its creaks. The church took me the way churches take men who don't belong to them, politely, from the steps. Lights in the nave drew long on the stones like thoughts a man had outside and carried in by mistake. Father Thomas stood in the side yard near the sacristy door, coat collar up, hands behind him the way men hold hands when they want to keep them from their pockets. "Mr. Reed," he said. "I am trying to skip an argument with God. He wins them whether I start them or not." "You're missing a book-shaped hole," I said. "A hole is not always missing," he said. "Sometimes it's exactly where it must be." "The ledger copy?" "It will return when I decide it can," he said, and the sentence let me see the lie standing behind it with its hat off. He didn't like lying. He did it anyway. "You think me complicit?" "I think you are better at mercy than at inventory," I said. He almost smiled. "Mercy keeps bad books." He looked past me at the harbor. "This town makes an idol of the lamp. It forgets a light can blind." "Blindness is cheaper than truth," I said. "It is. And more popular." He stepped toward the door, and the key in his hand caught a bit of light as if metal enjoyed confession. "Go home, Mr. Reed. Confessions made without intention to amend are just stories. Stories sell, I said. Souls don't, he said, and went inside. Back at the seaward, Mr. Greeley had put the lobby to bed. A lamp burned for courtesy. The register slept with its pages open at the corner like a man who can't quite believe in pillows. On the blotter beside it a small slip of catalog stock waited patiently. I didn't notice it until my hand found it the way a mouse finds a trap. I lifted it to the light. The same cream tooth. The same bite at the corner. The eye again, struck through. Under it, the hatch lines had grown from 3 to 4. And below those, a word in pencil that wasn't there before and might not live long if I breathed wrong. Room 207. The hallway remembered every step I'd taken since I'd come to town. My key turned, the door opened, and the room stood the way a room stands when it's been asked to behave. On the table, where I'd left the corner of paper and the lead seal like I'd been training them to speak, sat a new addition, a small brass tool no longer than my palm. Crimper jaws. Old. Clean. The teeth inside kept a tiny star. Next to it, a single drop of red had dried into a bead the size of a thumbnail. Paint. Fresh enough to glisten in the lamp and old enough to have made a decision. I didn't move right away. The window breathed. The lighthouse threw the square of its attention across the washstand and took it back. I cleaned the bead with the edge of a card and put it into the notebook like a man tucks a match for later. When I lifted the crimper, a slip of paper under it showed itself, thin, typed once, the ink a little tired. Stop counting, it said, as if such things could be decided. The O in stop was slightly darker than the rest, the way a type bar prints when the key's been struck harder by a hand that had an opinion. I looked at the door. The bolt had been thrown from the inside. Greeley hadn't lied about the lamp in 207. It was finicky. Sometimes the chain pulled itself. I set the crimper down and the room gave the smallest sound in the world, the whisper of paper under a door. I crossed the floor and took the new note like it might bite. Asterisk midnight. Again, asterisk. No place. No courtesy. Just the town insisting on its hour. The lighthouse kept turning and the rain found a new way to be petty against the glass. I sat, and wrote, and waited for the dark to choose its chair.